Hello everyone and welcome to the Streaming Theatre, where we curate, live edit and live stream play readings, theatrical works, gigs and other creative projects. My name is Kevin Kemp and I'm the founder of the Streaming Theatre, and today we have Gavin Harrison on the show with his Script and Screenwriting 101. We're going to be talking about how to get started in script writing, how to format scripts and how to stay creative in these tough times. If you've got any questions for Gavin throughout the show, just feel free to throw them on the live chat. If you're on Twitch, you can see the live chat here. And if you're on the Streaming Theatre website, just click on the button that says Watch Live on Twitch and you can come and join us and it'll be lovely. As always, you can support the stream with any donations. That would be amazing. Donations and tips are shared with the artists on the stream, and it just helps us to keep bringing you new arts events online. So that'd be awesome if you can. If you can't see the donation button for any reason below me, just go on thestreamingtheatre.com and you will find donation links on there. Make sure you choose the project that you'd like to donate to, and for today that would be Script and Screenwriting 101. But let's bring Gav on so we can say hello. Let me just bring his audio online and his face. Hi Gav, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi. Thanks so much for coming on. How's your day going? You all right?
Going good, it's going good. I'll put a shirt on for this.
You look lovely.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to dress up for the first time in weeks.
So Gav and I have known each other for a really long time. We've worked together on a ton of projects as well, from theatre and all kinds of things. So it's such a joy to have you with me, Gav. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Joy to be had.
Yay. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and just sort of tell people about your journey, how you got into writing and those kinds of things. Go for it.
Sure. I'm Gavin Harrison. I won't go too far back because it's going to take way too long, but I studied at LIPA in Liverpool. You obviously know that very well. And actor, and since graduating I did a few good acting jobs, I suppose, but then also with some dire situations where I wasn't working at all.
We'll win there, Gav. Yeah.
I mean, I've been writing since I was about 10 years old, and it's just always been there for me. Acting has been one of my loves. I've always loved doing it, but I've always been loving to write something as well. And storytelling is one of the oldest things we can do, and it's always been very important to me, and I've loved it. So since when I was in between acting jobs, I've been writing stuff and seeing if I can produce any of my own work. I could ask myself in anything I've written, writing my own parts myself, I just can't do it. So I've been writing a lot of stuff for years, and then mainly theatre, and then eventually moving into screenplays and film scripts.
Cool. And I thought that what was nice about having you on the show this week was that, this is a crazy time, right? Like, we're going to have actors, out of work, and obviously theatres are shutting down and things like that. So maybe actors that are in a similar position to perhaps you were, where they've now got downtime, maybe they can pick up a pen and start writing too, and it could be a good opportunity to explore something they haven't before. And also, for writers maybe that haven't tried screenwriting before, maybe they've done theatre writing and things like that. So I just thought it might be the right time to do like a real basic getting into writing thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the basic, the better, because it's me. So I'm not going to try and say I'm an expert in any of this stuff. So it's all done from my own personal experience.
Cool.
Great thing to...
Well, maybe that's a nice segue. Why don't you sort of tell us a little bit about the writing you've done and what those projects were and how you got into them and that kind of thing, just to start us off.
This is back in 2001. I wrote my first full-length stage play called Scam, which I produced at the Roadmender venue. It's kind of a music venue. I think you know that.
Oh, I know the Roadmender very well. Great place.
But there's also a theatre venue as well, and I wrote this play and cast a lot of my friends in it. So I was at college at the time, and thought, let's just do it, let's do something. And I was like 19 years old, and I thought, let's just see if this can work. And I put it on, and we had a launch party the week before as well. We had local bands playing, and it was in the local paper, and it was crazy to think I was 19. I organised and produced all this stuff. Like, now I'd be panicking about all this. But yeah, and it was great. And it also had some film scenes in it as well. So it was fascinating to write the stage script, which also had screenplay elements into it, which I had no idea what. And because I was directing it, I thought I'll just write it how I see it, and go with that really. And it all went for charity as well, for NSPCC and Marie Curie. So everything that we did, it was just all 100% profits going to charity. It was mainly a passion project for me to see if I can do this, and
yeah, that's beautiful.
Which is really good fun, and it was a great experience for everyone. So that was my first play.
Cool.
And that was fun. There was a lot of work involved, but yeah, I loved it.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. I like the sound of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, since then, I mean, I produced Scam the second time in Liverpool when I finished at Lipper as well, with a completely different cast, and I rewrote it and made loads of other film scenes in it. So that was really cool.
Cool.
And fun to take something that I've already done and revisit it and move things around and change it around, which is really cool. And then, yeah, I've been writing a lot of stage plays since then, a lot of short plays, a lot of different short plays for different festivals and competitions and theatres, and like 24-hour play challenges and those kind of things, which are always good to challenge yourself in those kind of different remits that they're asked for. My second full-length script was a play called When I Am King, which I wrote based on, it was based on a photo actually. It's set in World War One, and I came up with the idea in 2008. And it was the Imperial War Museum and the London Transport Museum had this picture of a London double-decker bus that had broken down in no man's land. And I was like, this is fascinating. How did this bus end up here?
Yeah.
And I'll write a story based on that, and like a fiction story, but also elements of truth and facts that are in there as well.
Yeah.
And a story came from this idea, mainly from this image that inspired me. And then it was a one-man play at first, and I thought actually this needs to be more of an ensemble piece, and it became like a 5-person play, which I thought it was quite nice. And
that's super exciting. So, and did you say that was your second full-length script?
Second full-length, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I usually find it easier to write short plays because you
sure
dense as possible. Full lengths, you got to kind of know where you're going. You've got 3 acts. You've got to always get to that midpoint where you feel that writer's block and everything. So it is a challenge in itself to do that. But I'm sure we can cover that stuff later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so my third full length was a play called Killing Edward, which is a comedy about Alzheimer's and bird watching and grieving and death, and inspired. It was my homage to Alan Ayckbourn, who's one of my heroes as a playwright. Luckily enough, when I was doing a show at the Royal and Derngate Theatre in Northampton, I managed to get cast in an Ayckbourn play, and he was directing it.
No way, that's cool.
Yeah, that was fun. And so it was a tiny part, a supernumerary part in this play, but it was a fantastic opportunity. I drowned in the swimming pool. We had a live swimming pool on stage. And but it was more about the fact that we'd go to the pub after rehearsals, and I can just chat to my hero who was just next to me and talk about cricket and stuff. And I ended up getting on the subject of his plays and said, I'm writing this play. Is there any chance you can have a look and give me some guidance? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, thank you. And,
no way.
I managed to read it and help me with different ideas and stuff. And I was reading a couple of his books on playwriting at the time. So it just had this huge impact on me to kind of get this script together and find the juxtaposition and the antithesis of the comedy and drama. If you write in a comedy, write about serious things. You write in a drama, make it funny elements in it as well, heighten those things. So that was really
like such a master at that, right? Like,
I
mean,
yeah, I can never reach his heights of what he can create. It's so great to have had that opportunity to just have him read my work and give his feedback on it.
Yeah.
Way. So that was really cool, and I managed to get a play reading. Well, actually, one of my acting jobs, luckily enough, was at the National Theatre, and one of the actors there was thinking about directing it, and he knew some. I'm going to name drop here. This is great. But he sent it off to Jenny Seagrove and David Suchet because he was thinking of them and they read it and gave feedback and stuff. So I had some people read this who were like, "How is this happening?"
Yeah.
And then I managed to get a play reading of it through the So and So Arts Club at the Samuel French Bookshop in London, which is unfortunately such a beautiful shop.
Yeah.
Had like Phyllis Logan, who played Mrs. Hughes in Downton Abbey, reading in it, and Andrew Paul, who was in the bill as well. And like these people reading my work was so much fun and so nice. And my third full-length play got that kind of exposure. I was really pleased with.
And so Did you find that when you had like these legends kind of reading your words, did that change your writing? Did you like experience them working on your work and be like, whoa, you know what? If I write differently, it gives them more. Did it influence you, do you think?
It kind of made me feel that this just got real in a way. I'm not just messing about anymore. This reputation's at stake, and I need to kind of make sure that this is kind of, yeah, it is like that kind of feeling when you show your friend around your hometown for the first time and you see it through different eyes and you kind of experience it in a different way. It's that kind of feeling. In a way, it's kind of when anyone reads my work. If I'm with them and they're reading it, I have this huge anxiety and like, oh my God, they're reading that bit. Oh, is it any good? And all those kind of feelings come through. So it is that feeling of, it does change how you write. Sometimes it's not just for myself anymore. This is actually, people are going to read this or see this or be affected by this, and it becomes a bigger thing. Not to say this is a bad thing or scary thing. It's just one of those learning curves that I had to go through myself. I'm sure everyone else's journey is different in that way, but yeah. That was nice.
Yeah, that's super cool. Okay, cool. And so keep it moving. What's and then what sort of came next for you?
A few short plays. There was a company a friend ran called Outside the Box Productions in London. They were doing new writing and short play evenings and stuff, and I managed to write a couple of plays for them. I wrote a play for the 24-hour play challenge that was in Ilford at the Kenneth Moore Theatre. That was one of my biggest learning curves, because suddenly you're given it's literally you're at a hotel in Ilford at 10 o'clock at night. You meet all the actors who are going to be part of it, all the directors. There's 6 directors, 6 writers, and 36 actors, I think. And all the actors had to bring a prop with them, and then they introduce themselves and they go home. And then the directors go home, and then the actors, the writers are there with the table with all the actors' headshots and what prop they brought, and you discuss who you want. So I got 4 actors in my group, and they all each had a certain prop, and you had 6 hours to write a short play with these actors and with their props. Yeah. So hotel, you kind of just go in stir crazy writing whatever you can do, and then that morning the directors then pick the script they want to do, and then the actors do it that night in front of a full audience.
Way.
So that was yeah. And there was those. I actually made a video blog of myself whilst I was descending into madness over a few hours to kind of come up with what I'm doing, feeling like completely losing confidence in what I've done, and then thinking, oh, this is really funny, then being delirious, and it's 5 a.m. I'm like, oh my God. And then that feeling of the directors are reading it right now, the actors are rehearsing it right now, and just going, what did I do? This is, again, a reputation thing. And you kind of feel, and then I turned up at the theatre that night and saw it, and the actors said they loved it, the directors really enjoyed directing it, and it was just one of those kind of, oh, this is great.
And so what was the name of the script that you ended up doing?
It was called Sometimes Looking Up Isn't Good for Your Health.
Cool.
This is a title that I wrote, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But ironically, this is the most widely produced play I've ever had. It was produced in Sydney, in Toronto. I think it was on in Miami at one point, and in Dubai, I think, as well. So it's like being put on in so many different places around the world. So
this kind of mad experience of like throwing something together has kind of flown off all over the place, and
yeah.
That's amazing. Cool.
Yeah, and then from that, there was the Pint-Sized Plays in Wales do this festival every year, and it's basically you write a play that they're gonna, if they pick it, they'll be on in a number of pubs in the Tempe Arts Festival, and so you have to write a play that minimum cast, no sets, no lights, no special things, because it's going to be on in a pub. And then those plays go do the circuit, and then they go to Theatre Gorn in Fishguard, which is part of the Script Slam, where the audience see the plays and they vote for the best scripts. And so I love writing set to limitations. When someone says, okay, it's this and this and this, what can you do? I'm like, I can do a lot, because you've given me the rules now. I can base around it. If I'm given anything to write about, or it could be anywhere and any time, I'm like, I don't know. You get a bit,
but that's so true of, I think, so much of creativity, isn't it? And that's probably something to remember in this time, is that when you've got almost anything you can do, sometimes it's harder. Whereas if somebody says, no, these are your parameters, that can really inspire creativity. And it's it's kind of like with the streaming theatre, it's like okay, we can't leave our houses, so it's like, so how can we make art events and theatre pieces, knowing that I have to do everything from this computer, and so does everybody else, and things kind of spiral from there. So yeah, that's really interesting.
To create something based on those limitations. Like just seeing, dropping again with Odd Socks last week with the state, genius, like the stuff you're giving limited to being in the house. You've got to do something with that, and then you just create these things that are like, oh my god, yeah, this is amazing.
Sweet.
So it's great. It's a great kind of device to use. And so the play I wrote was set in a pub, and I thought, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be in a pub. What's going to happen? And it becomes this kind of situation. There's a play called Vent, which you know too well, Kevin. I was going to write it as I did write it as a screenplay. I adapted it. This is one of these kind of scripts where I thought, okay, if it gets selected, I'll write a pilot episode. And it got selected. And I thought, okay, if people like it, then I might write the pilot. I liked it. If it goes on at the theatre, I'll do the pilot. It went on at the theatre, and okay, if it wins, then that's my test audience, and it won. It won Best Script.
Amazing.
Like, oh, I should write the pilot episode. 6 years later, I write the pilot episode for this short, which I then I want to make it into a TV series because I feel like it's got legs to kind of you've got the characters and you've got the antithesis that I learned from Mayborn of this tragedy, but finding the comedy as well. So yeah, that was really fun to do, and adapting a stage play that I wrote into a pilot episode for a screenplay as well is another learning curve that I didn't realize I needed to learn, because sometimes you just think, I'll just take those words and put them there, and then it's the same. It's not at all.
And we were kind of gutted, weren't we, because we were meant to be shooting that pilot in April, right? Is that right? Yeah, we were.
Yeah, in San Francisco.
Yeah. So we were booked in to shoot this pilot. Yeah, in April in San Francisco, and then the lockdown hit, and we were both like, no, it was so close. I think I've got a picture of the theatre show, so let me throw that up so people can see that. So we've got a funny little guy there.
Is what if there's a online date, and the guy brings along his ventriloquist puppet, and the puppet is another actor, as a human, but he sees him as a human, but everyone else sees him as a puppet. So that's where kind of the storyline came from. That's the what if, and then I try and find something to tell around that and how that can work, and the ideas of who this puppet is and the relationship between the two of them and the three of them all. So just how it. Yeah.
So I'm aware that because you and I can babble at each other for days on end. So why don't you just tell us super quickly, just a couple of examples of screenplays you've written, because I want to get into the into the 101. Because we've only got like an hour show, so we're why don't you just throw us a couple of screenplays you've written, and then we'll get into the 101 and you can tell people more things.
Yes. Was something like I said when I did Scam, it was learning what to do and how to write. The first screenplay I ever read was The Big Lebowski by the Coen brothers, and I didn't realize I was reading the shooting script where it has the tights 2 shots and pan 2 and full shots, and it had all the directors what they did. And I thought that's what a screenplay was. You have to write exactly how you see it. I was very wrong in that. If you're directing it, that's fine, and if you're the DOP of a film or something, then it's good to know what angles you're doing. But you don't need to write that when you're doing the story, when you're telling the story and everything. And if someone else is going to make it for you, it's up to them what angles they have and how they do it. So, so I learned a lot from doing from writing Scam and then writing other short film scripts. And then I did a voiceover for a film called Wasteland by Light Films in Derby, and it was a voiceover for this character, and it's a good film. It was nice and it was fun to do. And they asked me, I said to them, I'm also a writer, just to let you know. And they said, oh, you want to write a film for us? I'm like, okay. And I sent them some examples and stuff that I'd done as kind of just ideas and little things that I wrote. And then they asked me if I wanted to write film, and I wrote a horror film set in space. Again, they gave me the limitations. They said, we want a horror film, we want it set in space, we want to feel like Event Horizon kind of style. I wrote this film called Tartarus, which has all those kind of things in place. It's a horror film in space and everything's there. Then they asked if I wanted to write a second film, which I did. I wrote Ratcatcher. Again, it was kind of like limitations are given on budget, especially. So how can you write a film with a limiting budget, but you still want to have something to capture the essence of the movie and everything. And it was Ratcatcher. It was basically the idea of the guy has to get from A to B in the forest. So it's kind of like a Rambo kind of movie.
Great.
Taken, so it's kind of like he's got to get his wife and daughter from these bad guys, but he got to fight bad guys on the way. So it's
love them films, love them.
And then the third film was a serial killer film called One Last Kill, which is it's all these films are still in the making with live films, but it was just great to be given that opportunity to see what I can do. Can I write these scripts based on the time limitations and budget limitations and expectation as well? And I feel like I did, to a point of like, I'm with this. I'm sure if I look back on these scripts, I'm like, I need to edit everything. But feel like I did it, and I'm kind of pleased with that. So yeah, it kind of moved me more to screenwriting, and I fell in love with it because it's just that feeling of like making something that when you write a stage script, you see everything on the stage at the same time. You know, all the audiences, the camera, they just see the whole thing. In a screenplay, you can manipulate what is seen, what the audience can see, what journey you take them on, and yeah, I just love that. I love that kind of element of it, and there's more opportunity, I think, for film and TV scripts to be made,
cool.
Especially, unfortunately, because we've no idea what theatre is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think, we don't know what the future holds for almost much of the entertainment industry. So, it's pretty nuts. So, mate, why don't we just dive into this sort of 101 then? And I know that one of the things that I wanted to speak to you about is that, like, I've written in the past, but I've always this is probably going to sound like the silliest question in the world when you're used to writing in the different mediums, but it's just that stage plays literally just look different to a screenplay, right? Like a stage play has like italics at the beginning, all the writing is on the left, and then a screenplay has different things and it's all in the center. So just literally before we even get into like content, the format is just different stage play to screenplay. Is that fair to say? Is that?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think stage plays can go in many different ways. I've read some stage scripts that have been formatted in many different ways and even published in different ways as well. The only thing I feel is more rigorous is a screenplay, where everything is center, it's written in a certain way. Because if you're sending that script to a producer and you've written it like a stage play, they might think, do you know what you're doing? And whereas stage plays, it feels like is a bit more fluid in how you want to produce it, how you want to present it, because it feels more like, I don't know, it just feels more like you can put your own voice in a stage play if the intention to get the effect of what you're saying is written in that kind of way. Like, direction can be written. I've read a script that's like poetry once, and it's just like written in a certain way that you still have the same effect. And
like is it Sarah Kane who did she do Blasted? Am I thinking of the right writer, Sarah Kane? Yeah, and with her one of her plays is written really stylistically on the page, as you say, like almost like a piece of poetry, where the visual aspect of you reading it almost tells you how it should be performed. So
yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, like the writer can give many different clues on to how to perform something, clues for the actors to know how to perform their character. Could be written verbatim, like they are stressed, they hit the door, or it could be written very vague, but you have to put all the clues together and finding out yourself. In a screenplay, you can get that, but you need to make sure you still have knowledge of the format and the layout of the script as well.
So just to sort of really paint the differences, you've been kind enough to supply us with two scripts, essentially the same scene, right? Like it's but one is written like a stage play and one is written like a screenplay. Is that correct? Have I stated that?
Yes.
Cool. So why don't I bring those up, just so people can literally just see formatting wise how they look different. So they're up now, Gav. So why don't you tell us, like, sort of just what we're seeing, just so you know, we've got stage play on the left and screenplay on the right. So
so like I said, the stage play itself, you got you usually have Act 1, Scene 1, but I didn't write Act 1. That's if it's a 3-act play or a full-length play. But yeah, Scene 1 lights up on a lobby, kind of the in italics is just gives you where you are, what's happening, who we're seeing, who we're looking at. It does go into a bit more detail in the stage script traditionally, usually. Again, don't quote me on this verbatim, like as the all knowledge of this, but this is just from my experience of what I've seen and what I've read and what I've written. Then you kind of move the action forward with who turns up, what they're doing. Sometimes you can start straight away with dialogue. I wrote a play which the dialogue begins and it's all black still. It's all completely dark, and it's the purpose of it being a blackout in this house. And then when the lights come on, we see what's happened. But the way I wrote it was, this is what's in the house, but we can't see any of this yet because it's in darkness. So literally you got the italics alongside describing what we're seeing. And then again, traditionally, this is how I write it. I put the character name, and you got the colon, and then usually I tab along, sometimes twice, depends on how short or long the name is, and then dialogue, and if they're doing anything whilst they're saying it. And then with the screenplay, you have to kind of set it up at the beginning of where you are and what time of day is it. So interior or exterior, and then where it is, and then what time of day. Traditionally, usually it's day or night or afternoon or evening. If the time of day is really important for the story and what's happening, then put golden hour or sunset, like that as well, Twilight Zone or whatever. But yeah, but then you kind of put the same kind of stuff where you are, what's happening, who's there, what are you seeing. But in a screenplay, I don't know, am I going more into more the content of it rather than the layout now?
No, you're good. Yeah.
Good. Okay. But yeah, so then with the screenplay, one of the main things that I think is you want to get from the top of the page to the bottom of the page as quick as possible as a reader. Like if you're trying to sell this to a producer or someone, you want them they're going to read a lot of stuff very quickly. So you want them to you want to get their attention and also get them through it as quick as possible. Yeah. And so you want to kind of say the same sort of stuff. I don't know if you've got the two up still, but the stage play has a lot of paragraphs of explaining what's happening. The screenplay does have that, but we get to who turns up straight away. Like the quiet lobby, Ethel, 70, enters via a revolving door with grace and confidence. You want to give the idea of who that character is in as little as information as possible. Make those sentences, as short as possible. I could even cut that and make it even shorter, but I wrote it in 20 minutes. So it's kind of.
And also, why do you want to do that quicker than a stage play? What do you think is why would you want to hit that so fast versus in a stage play where you could embellish a bit more?
I would look at it as if I was a producer and I was reading a script and suddenly there was a whole page of explaining what I'm seeing, I'd feel bored before I even start reading the first word. And you don't want them to have that as your first feeling of something. It might be the best thing ever written, but if that first initial kind of feeling is, oh God, here we go, you kind of want to keep them awake more than anything. And so if you can find a way of reducing all of that down to the very best one sentence, then you want to, and that's kind of goes for a lot of things. If you can get it down to one sentence, this doesn't mean to diminish what you've written or belittle it or anything at all. If it needs a bit more, then by all means go for it. But make sure you hold them with the best words ever written, because it's going to be a challenge for them to get to that next page otherwise. It's like when you go and you walk in the room, it's first impressions. It's exactly the same kind of thing. That as soon as they turn that title page over and they see bulk of text, it's that first impression that it would be really hard to change their minds otherwise.
Whereas I think that I would agree with you, whereas with stage plays, when you see that long italic, that's not necessarily a put off because it's really painting that stage.
Definitely. It gives information. It gives the director information what they need to do. It gives the actors a lot of information on if they're there, what is the playwright saying about me. It's one of our acting 101 kind of things. You have to ask tactic, motivation, obstacle and stuff, and so all the clues are there. And like I said, the playwright has a bit more of a voice in their script as well, because it feels more ownership over that. In a screenplay, especially if you're writing a feature film or something, then it can, unless you're directing it, if you're just writing it to sell it, that's going to be changed. But to the final product, so what you've written won't be the same final outcome of it. So what you basically want to do is just to sell this idea straight away and sell this script as soon as, to as many people as possible, and still have that great idea and still make sure you got that and convey that. But yeah, your job as a screenwriter is just to kind of get it to as many hands as possible and get them as interested as they can be.
Cool. So so we've got these, like, I'll bring those up again. We've got these like purely like visual differences. We've got these italics for stage play, character and speech on the left, and then in the screenplay we've got so as you said, these kind of shorter introductions of character. Obviously right at the top we've got int Bank Lobby Day, and then all of the character and dialogue is center paged. So that's like clear formatting differences that people should be aware of, because as you said, like you could come off as you could come off as like like you don't know what you're doing otherwise. And this is also, I would suggest this is the best thing to do, this format if you're writing screenplays. If this is your first foray into screenwriting, is to do this, because there are other versions as well. If you're writing a comedy, for example, and it's TV comedy, you've got the differences between a multi-cam comedy and a single cam comedy, which then is a whole realm to get into as well. So maybe that's Gav coming back on a second stream to
part two.
Yeah.
But as a basics of screenwriting, like, this is the best thing to just stick to this kind of format. And it's clear, and everyone uses it, so you can't really. Do
you just do this on Word, or is there some software that you recommend?
Screenwriting, Final Draft is the main one that people use, that is accepted, because it does it so beautifully for you. When you out and stuff, and you just hit enter, it knows, this is a conversation, it goes straight to character. I mean, personal kind of like loves for it, but also it's accepted across the whole industry. There are other, I've written them down, hang on a second.
He's prepared, people, he knows what he's doing.
There are some free apps and software you can get and stuff as well.
Is Final Draft paid then?
Yeah, you got to pay for it. Yeah, and it ain't cheap. But you can get it. I've got it on my iPad, which is just as good. There are some limitations to it. There's not some things that you don't get on the full version on PC or Mac, but it's still good. It still does everything you need to do, and it's my go-to thing. I just write on my iPad now.
Cool.
But Celtex, which is another word formatting thing for writing. I think that's free. I think, no, possibly. Find out. Movie Magic Screenwriter, which is another big one. I think the Writers Guild of America, WGA, accept that as the main kind of thing to write with. Again,
and I should probably say we haven't been sponsored by any of these, so
no.
we're not getting any money to tell you this.
Final Draft can be free software.
Yeah.
But that's for screenwriting. For stage writing, you can use Microsoft Word. You can use on Mac and stuff, on iPad Pages. I use that a lot for stage writing. You just have to do the formatting yourself, and that's why it's so fluid. That's why there's so many different versions of stage writing, because there isn't really these other screenwriting apps and software do support stage writing as well, but you do feel a little bit limited. I wrote a stage play once on Final Draft, and it just didn't feel the same. It didn't have that same essence to it. And it's a weird thing, because I could have just read it as a screenplay, but no, it's as a stage play, and it's really interesting.
And so why don't we move into like content differences now? Like, like would you, because you've made a couple of changes, right, on these small scenes that you think wouldn't translate as well, so you needed to adapt them when you were, say, taking the stage version of this small scene over to the script version. You made a couple of changes, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to read through them?
Whatever you want to do. What do you think?
Screen, is it there? Are people seeing it?
Yes, they are seeing it now. I just brought it back up.
Nice. So the stage, script. So I'll just read it. I'll just do
Okay.
it. Lights up on a lobby in West National Bank. Made it up. The lobby is usually is unusually quiet for this time of day. A large bench is situated in the centre with a clerk, Simon, 30, behind the desk at one end. He is in a shirt and tie and busies himself with his work on the desk. So that first paragraph just sets the scene. We know what we're looking at. It's a large lobby. It's quiet. So as a stage play, you want to kind of be aware of the theatre that you're writing for as well. But unusually quiet, because you don't want it to be a full lobby, because then the theatre won't. They'll look at them and go, "Oh, we can't afford that." That's a lot of extras for a stage play. So find ways to cheat it and to make it like, okay, it's quiet, but then use that to move the story as well. So
if you knew who you were writing for, like if you, let's say you'd found a theatre that you really liked and you wanted to try and get a script to them, you would actually be like, what can they legitimately put on, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's if you are writing theatre.
My iPad's talking to me. Hang on, I'm not sure what. Hang on, I'm gonna make that be quiet. Excellent work. Excellent.
Thank you.
Glad he turned up.
If you know the theatre that you're writing for, go and visit it, go and see their shows, see what sort of shows they program and produce and what they are trying to push and champion. There's no point, reaching out to them with a sci-fi comedy and they're a small studio theatre that's producing one-man plays and that's it. Like you kind of have to know who you're reaching out to, and it doesn't necessarily mean only write the one theatre. Just when you've written your scripts, know what theatres you want to kind of send off to and stuff, and have that in mind when you reach out to them. Some places you can't go to all of them, so research online and see what shows they program and just find the ones that can match your voice. I think is very important.
Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the next paragraph, a woman in a plastic rain cap, long overcoat enters. Her suspicious behaviour is matched with the fact that she's wearing pointed sunglasses. This is Ethel, 70. She looks around the lobby before sitting down on the far end of the bench. So that paragraph there just kind of gives an idea of this character that enters. Ethel, she's 70. I love writing older characters. I think there should be more written in the world, because they're just, it's a shame that there aren't. And I will always, if I can make them older, I definitely will. That's why I can't cast myself, Kev. This is a problem.
Too young.
But then I write younger parts and I just can't do it. As soon as she sat down, a man enters. He's also in a long overcoat and adds to his suspicious look with a trilby hat and brown aviator sunglasses. This is George, 75. George sits on the other side of the bench. He looks at Ethel. She doesn't look at him. He turns away as Ethel turns to him. She's feeling anxious about the task ahead, and George isn't helping. This happens a couple of times. Each time, both are getting more annoyed with each other. Eventually, Ethel stays turned towards George. She waits until he turns to her. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Now, I wrote that with the visual comedy in mind. That could also be cut, and that could be left up to the director to find something to do with that. But for this example, I just kind of added that in there, thinking, I'll probably direct it.
And when we look at the screenplay, like, it's really different, right? It's like...
Yeah.
And is this only because, as you said, you want to make it short so the producers get into the dialogue, or is there a reason that you've changed some of it?
Well, usually as well, because that whole interaction with them sitting on the bench might be a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So one of the other rules of screenwriting is general rule when it's a normal layout like this is it's a page a minute. So what you've written down, that's going to take about a minute on camera, unless it's dialogue is just one word interaction, then it might be 20 seconds. But usually it's about a minute a page. So with that in mind, you want to get the information across, but you also be aware of how much time is passing by as well. So you want to kind of, in the screenplay, it's a quiet lobby of West National Bank. Ethel, 70, enters via the revolving door with grace and confidence. So you want to give an idea of who she is straight away with a couple of words.
Yeah.
Eyes the cameras over her large sunglasses and covers her face with her rain cap. She sits at one end of the large bench in the middle of the lobby and waits patiently. Today's the day. So just having something like today's the day, it kind of puts that urgency on and moves the action forward in a certain way. So you're thinking, well, what's happening? And just the person think, if they're reading it, they're like, okay, I'm interested. What's going to come up? It's not just a person entering a bank and sitting down. you want to kind of get that intrigue and interest in it.
So you think maybe the stage play, people have more patience to like sink into it, whereas with that screenplay you want to be exciting them pretty quick.
Definitely, yes.
Cool.
And you can still get the same elements across, but when it's a screenplay, like you can get you could, if I was just doing the stage play, I could probably hire a small studio space and get a couple of actors and just do it. It's so much harder with a screenplay because you can't just go and film stuff and be like, oh, look at this, and be like, oh, we've already made it, well done. Kind of, yeah, you want to inspire them as quick as possible, as much as possible. And yeah, so then it that sort of way of doing it moves on as well. And I won't go on too much about it because we're running out of time probably soon. But then, like with the dialogue and stuff, and especially in the screenplay, I wrote Ethel regrets her choice in partner. It just, again, it gives something. It gives a clue as to dynamic between these two characters. And also saying her choice in partner. What sort of partner is this? Going to be this is a bank, you know? It's one of my partners. And then she mentions, "Did you bring the water pistol?" And he's like, "What?" It's that kind of. So trying to find the dynamic between these two characters and what's going to happen.
And is any of the dialogue different, or is the dialogue all the same? It's just the way that you explain it. I'm just having a quick read through.
Yeah, what are you going to say? Is any of the dialogue any good? No. It's pretty much the same. There's a couple of moments, like in the stage play, I wrote Ethel goes shh a couple of times, and George goes when she says in the water pistol. Maybe not in that kind of way like Yoda, but he would still hear that. And instead, it's just written down in the directions instead, like in the screenplay. Just, Ethel shuts George down with a stern look and a muted shh. And so it's kind of just to save space, because if I had written Ethel goes shh, that takes up like 4 or 5 lines, which then takes on your first page. So you just want to condense it as much as possible, still portray what you want to get across, but in as short amount of space as you can.
Cool. Okay, cool. So why don't we move kind of into like what you need to reach out to someone, you know, like what it should contain to reach out to someone with your script, and then we can go into like how to keep staying creative when you get all the writer's blocks and stuff. And I guess we need to be aware that we've only actually got about 15-20 minutes to get through that.
Challenge accepted.
Gavin, tell us everything now, go.
Okay, so reaching out to producers and people to put on your work, basically. So if you're trying to reach out to theatres to put on your work, again, like I said before, know the theatre, know what they're programming. It just helps. It just helps that they know that you know what you're talking about, and even if you've seen a couple of the shows, it really helps if you write a cover letter and say like, I love this show. I think this all fits in really well with next year's programming, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, and that's the same as like applying for a job, right? You know, you'd find out about the company beforehand. You know, do you want to work there and why you want to work there? You know, you do that. Yeah. But
also, your main thing is selling the script and the story. So it could work out where you just say, you know, dear so-and-so, just say a pitch line in a way, like one sentence of what this is about to entice them, to get them interested. And then you can go on like, I've done this and this, whatever. Then talk about the theatre, because it just helps for them to see, okay, it's this, now I'm interested, or I'm not interested, I won't bother reading the rest of it, but I appreciate they've done that. Take me time. So that helps a lot when you are writing to theatres to say what you've got. Is this any good? If you're interested, I'll send you the script. That's if they are accepting scripts as well. A lot of theatres don't. You have to go through an agent go that way, which is another 101 thing.
So all of that makes complete sense to me, right? It's just like you find out about the theatre, you see what kind of work they're producing, and then you write something to fit to it. But I'm looking at your notes now for script writing, and it seems like there's a ton of things that I didn't even know existed. So what are all they? Them? What's the correct word? Doesn't matter. What are all they?
So for screenwriting, again, it can be just first off an introduction with your one-liner of what you've got, and then if you're interested, I'll send you more details. Again, like with screenwriting, sometimes they might ask for a pitch page or your pitch deck, or a treatment. So there's loads of different things you can do with that. So you've got things like an elevator pitch, which is basically the idea of, imagine you're in an elevator or a lift with a producer, and you've got the time it takes to get from the bottom floor to the top floor to sell them your idea. So that's why it's called the elevator pitch. You just got to say it in one sentence and get them interested in it. And I usually have that on your pitch page. Like, you've got the title of your show, and then in one sentence, it's this. And then if they're still invested, then they'll look at the next bit of what the story could be about, and then the next bit of like what you've done, and it just kind of gets them interested in that one page.
Sure.
Sometimes you've only got seconds to sell something to a producer, and you just gotta do as much as you can in a short amount of time, but not speak really fast like I do. So then you've got like I said, that's your pitch page. You can also have a pitch deck, which can be in different ways. It can be different sheets. So you've got if you've got art for it, if it's an animation, for example, you can the artwork if you've got the artist involved with you as well. And then again, your elevator pitch, a synopsis, what it's about. It can even be like a PowerPoint presentation. If you've got any inspired whatever you've created. There were the writers, I forgot what their names are, who wrote A Quiet Place. They shared on Twitter their video that they used to pitch, and it had like different clips from different movies that they just put together to be like, this is the look of this film, and they managed to sell A Quiet Place with this video and their pitch. So it's really helpful to just convey what you're thinking and get them to read your mind. So you want to make it as clear as possible.
So I've seen, when I've had films sent to me as an actor before, they've often sent along the mood board, which feels very similar to what you're saying. It's like, almost like little pictures from other films that, just match that color and that atmosphere. And it does, just for you as the actor, it makes you go, I think I know what this film is. So essentially what you're saying is that for you as the writer, you might give the producers something like that, this visual asset that goes, this is kind of what the film might look or feel like. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You just want to get their imagination sparked up as quick as possible, and it just really helps to sell it, because if you're just using your words, it can help, but it just helps so much more have visual representation of it. I pitched a TV show once, and I used a prop from the show that doesn't exist, and I gave it to when I pitched it to them, and it's a very important prop for the show. And it just helped, and they were telling me how much they liked the pitch and everything, and it was just feedback. But it just helps to create something that will visually aid what you're trying to get across, basically.
That's cool. And so I think something I hear a lot is the treatment, and I don't know what that is at all. So what's a
it's
treatment?
Like when you paint, you've got to treat it. No.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Been in too long. It's basically it sometimes can be a page treatment, or 2 pages, or 10 pages. It just tells the story of what you've got. So if it's a movie, it's the mini short story based on the movie, saying this person here and this happens and this happens. It just has all the details of it, and it depends on what they ask for. They could ask for a 2-page treatment or 1-page treatment, or like I said, 10 pages, which you can go into more. But it can also drive you mad, because you're like, I don't know if this is any good anymore, because you kind of begin to doubt yourself. And it helps a lot. I usually write a treatment for something before I've written the script, just to kind of make sure I've got the whole story arc going on and it all makes sense, because otherwise you could be 50 pages into the script and you're like, oh, I need to add this thing, which means I need to go back and rewrite 50 pages. So it just helps a lot to kind of get your story there, because you could have an idea and then go and work on it, great, but then you get to, I don't know if that's going to work anymore. There's a whole thing called, are you a plotter or a pantser? And a plotter is who plots everything down before they write it, and a pantser is right on the seat of your pants, basically, and just see what happens.
So maybe that takes us quite nicely in to how do you get your ideas? Like what do you do? What do you do, Gav? What do you do?
What do I do? I kind of I guess I think, like I said before, the whole what if, like when I wrote When I Am King, seeing that bus broken down in no man's land, what happened? How did that get there? So what if it's this that happened and then led to this and this? So a lot of times I'm inspired by kind of true stories that then become fictional in my story. Like with Killing Edward, the inciting incident for me was based on a true story. And when people read it, they were like, say, their feedback was, I like it, but this bit is too far-fetched. And that was the only bit that's based on the true story. So it's kind of, which is always the way, like the fact is always stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
But it is a kind of, I don't know how I get my ideas from. It just happens, and sometimes they don't, and you just kind of have to be like, okay, just on PlayStation and just wait until, you know, or just like I've got books, loads of books of just different ideas and different stories. There's a play with Killing Edward where I had nearly about 10 cast members in it, and I whittled it down to 5. But I kept the characters that I didn't use. I kind of, in my head, put them on a spotlight and said, justify yourself to me. Why are you in this play? And the ones who I couldn't justify, I was like, okay, you're on the bench. You just sit over there for now. You're a good character, but not for this story. And then I wrote another play, which I didn't really, I did finish it, but I wanted to go back in it, but then other things happened, so I didn't get a chance to kind of complete it, called Ladybird, which is for the movie, totally different storyline. But I used some of the characters from Killing Edward. I picked them up and go, okay, this is your story. You can be in it. And they helped a lot. They served the story and works that way.
I really like what you said about getting characters to like justify what they're doing in the story, because I think like some of the best writing that I've read, you know, whether I'm acting or just watching it on telly or going to the theatre, is when those characters have such strong intentions, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing worse than seeing a character on stage or in film or whatever sort of bumbling through. But if they've got a driving intention, they're so charismatic, right?
Yeah.
And so I really like your idea of analysing your work all the time to say like, is this person doing anything right now? Like,
yeah, definitely. Before, usually it's the midpoint in your story where you begin to doubt yourself and question if this, don't want to move on because, oh, this is rubbish. And you kind of have to remind yourself, and like with acting, when you're halfway through rehearsal, you lose confidence in yourself and in what you're doing. But then when you do the opening night and the audience are loving it, you're like, oh, of course, that's why it works. It's the same kind of thing with writing. It's like, remember that for a reader, this is going to be the first time they read this. You have become so used to this. And so you want to kind of remind yourself. And again, it's like showing your friend your hometown, like look at it through fresh eyes. And feedback is so important. It's such an important thing to give your work to people that you know and trust, and sometimes people you don't know. How is this? Is this any good? I love feedback. I love it when people tell me this is, you need to change this and this and this, because that's when anytime you grow and learn is from people reading your stuff. And I'm so grateful for anyone who ever reads my work, because they're taking time to read this and give me their thoughts on it. It's so priceless and precious, and these people are kind of gold to me. So it's always important to get feedback on your work, because that's the only way you kind of grow. And
I think that's really cool, man. Like you can get stuck in a bubble, right, of people just being like, you're amazing, and then that's obviously lovely to hear. But if you can't have somebody giving you that honest, constructive feedback, how do you know how to grow? And that's all we should ever want to do, right? Is keep progressing and pushing our art.
Like I didn't go to writing school. I didn't take classes and stuff. All of my stuff has all been from experience and just trial and error. Like I trained as an actor, so that's I couldn't afford to do anything else. Evening classes, and there's writing groups and stuff, and I'm a member of a few online writing groups on Facebook and stuff, which is so important, because do Zoom meetups, and you just kind of hold each other to account, try and get as many words done as possible, and just that's it. Or share each other's work and help each other out, and you learn from reading other people's work as well. It just helps you to kind of go, oh yeah, I can see what they did there and how they solved that thing. It just helps. So that's always been my classroom, has been other people who help teach me and helping other people by by my experiences and doing talks like this. Like, it's just to say stuff and say like, oh, this is what I've done, and it just helps. Really cool.
So if there's somebody sitting at home, right, and they've not written before, there probably is somebody sitting at home.
I'm sure there's a book.
And they're going, okay, I want to write something, but they just literally don't even know where to start. What like, I don't know, 3 things can you say to help them just start? Like what should they be thinking or doing to just begin that thing?
You just said it in 2 words, Kev. Just start. That's the thing. Like, that's kind of it. If you want to be a writer and you want to do it, just do it. Just write and just start. That's the hardest hurdle to overcome, though, is to start. If you can sit there for ages on a blank screen, like there's for me, it's a kind of a stereotypical trope that you see in movies of a writer staring at a blank screen and there's a cursor blinking and like, oh, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Usually, you've got an idea of what you're going to do. You know what you want to write about. You just do it. You just do it. Just start. Yeah. There's loads of resources out there. There's books. There's online classes. There's physical classes. Once we can get back to them. There's so much out there to help. But the thing is, like, have that idea. Everyone's got a story in them. At least one story. And if you find the way that you want to write, you might want to do it as a stage play. It might be a screenplay. It might be a novel. Might be a haiku. Who knows?
Who knows?
It could be anywhere. But just do it and grow from there and keep on doing it. The only way you learn is by doing and learning and growing and getting feedback. And don't be precious over if someone says, "Oh, I'm not sure about this thing." It's that feeling of like, well, okay, why didn't they see it? Inside you email go, no, it's this, you idiot. But you also kind of want to say to yourself, okay, I didn't convey that clear enough to this reader. What can I do to improve? What can I do to make that clearer? Because all writing really is getting this onto a page and then getting that person to read your mind through your words and making sure that they can see what you see. And if you can do that, the clearer the better, then you're onto a good start, I think.
I love that. That's super cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe we should finish off. What is some of your favourite writing, either going on right now or that you've just loved in the past, that maybe people can go and read or watch to just go, yeah, that's good. Like, what do you like? There's
so much. I mean, obviously, I mentioned Alan Ayckbourn for theatre. He's always been my hero, and I just some people are kind of like Marmite for him, but I just think he's a great
for any American people watching. Marmite is a very important English food thing. It's very important. People, but basically with Marmite, the whole thing was you either love it or you hate it. So that's the Alan Ayckbourn reference there. Just translating for you, Gav.
Thank you. But his juxtaposition and finding the comedy in tragedy and the tragedy in comedy, I think, is so good and so true to life. Why he's so good in his work is because of that, and he has such a great voice of reaching out of what's happening in the world at that time. See if he's written anything over the past few weeks.
I know, right? Yeah.
So I suppose for TV, there's so much now, though.
We're in such a golden age, right? It's so good.
It's insane, but I suppose Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who wrote Fleabag, I love Kidding. It's such a good show. But also anyone who was it that wrote Sex Education, Laurie Nunn, just someone who. I went to a Q&A once with Robert McKee, who wrote a really good book on screenwriting, and he said something that stuck with me was, if you're writing for TV, you want to write at least 5 years ahead. Like if you're writing something based on what's out now, you're always going to be playing catch up. And it really kind of stuck with me because I'm like, of course you are, yeah. If you're seeing a show like Sex Education and you're going to write a show based on sex education, guess what? That's going to take years until that's made.
Yeah.
And it might not be made because people have moved on. So write what you love and what you inspires you and drives you, but also try and kind of have an idea where you think things are going to go in about 5 years' time.
Yeah.
So get your crystal ball and your laptop, right.
Good.
But
good.
Just someone who anyone who's matched that, like, that's why these shows are so good, because these writers have just gone, okay, I've got this idea, and they're ahead of their time, and try and get time, which I think is really important. And the film, again, I think is anyone who's a writer, director, who's produced their own stuff. Hitchcock, Christopher Nolan, Wachowski's, these people who just have got the way to be able to do it themselves and create. And I think it's cool. But also be able to write something that a director can take your video and make something amazing with it. It's also really good.
Well, I really liked what you said, which was write what you love, because I think that's totally what we need to be doing right now, right? We need to just find the joy, and or even if it's not joyful, just something that you're passionate about, because that's going to help us all through this crazy time, right?
Absolutely. So I think it's so important nowadays just to write what you want to see, and don't worry about producing it or publishing it or anyone to see it right now. Just do it for you, and do it for your own entertainment and for people who want to read it, and then worry about everything else later on. But write what you love. It's so important.
That's awesome, Gav. I think that is a pretty cool way to end the stream, is by going, do what you love.
Thanks. Should have said that at the beginning. An hour.
Oh yeah, we should have said. Oh wow, God, could have gone for a pint, but not. Can't go for a pint. But Gav, it's always such a pleasure to hang out with you, but also to work with you. I think when we've worked together, it's been some of my most joyful moments. So let us hope that that this lockdown ends soon and we can be back together working on that pilot, hopefully, right? And if not anything very soon, I'd be honoured to work with you. You're such a gem of the world, man. So
thank you. Been a pleasure.
Cool. Well, we shall wave goodbye to Gav now. One like there. See you. Bye. Cool. Well, thanks again to Gavin for being on the streaming theatre. We're gonna try and get him back super soon if he's available. That'd be great. We've got lots of stuff coming up. We've got, what have we got going on? We've got, if you saw Macbeth on Friday last week, you can still catch that on our website, even if you missed it, thestreamingtheatre.com. Go and have a look at Macbeth. It's very funny. We've got Odd Socks back on Friday to have a little chat and a little debrief about the show, how they made it and worked with me as a director, and how we developed Macbeth, the comedy. And we'll be talking about that on Friday. On night, I've also got an art quiz with the wonderful Devin. He's going to be our host, doing a sort of pub quiz all to do with art. So, get your friends online, compete against each other. It should just be a good way to have a laugh. We've got The Tempest coming up in a few weeks with the wonderful Globetrotting Shakespeare Company. They're doing an incredible job to bring artists from all the way across the world to come together for this show of The Tempest. And we've got loads of events in the works as well, so please check out our events page, follow us on Facebook, and just see what we've got coming, because there's loads coming at the Streaming Theatre. That's about it for today. So as always, follow Gav's words, do what you love. I think that's really good advice. My name's Kevin Kemp, and this is the Streaming Theatre. Thank you for watching.